It started with a knock. 3 slow taps on her apartment door. Mara Reeves froze mid-step, her hand hovering over the light switch. The clock above the TV blinked 12:03 a.m. No one ever knocked that late. Not in this building, not in this neighborhood. She waited. Silence. Then again, knock, knock, knock. Her breath quickened. She peeked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. Just flickering lights and peeling wallpaper. Mara had lived at Crescent Apartments for 6 months. It was cheap, quiet, and, most importantly, close to her night shift job at the diner. But lately, strange things had been happening. She'd find her door unlocked when she was sure she'd locked it. Footsteps would echo in the hall long after midnight. And sometimes she'd wake up to hear faint humming through the wall, like someone was standing right behind her headboard. But no one lived in the apartment across the hall. It had been empty since she moved in. The next morning, she asked the landlord, Mr. Crowley, about it. He looked up from his newspaper, eyes dull and tired. 6B, that place has been sealed for years after the fire. What kind of fire? She asked. Crowley frowned. Bad one. Tenant left a candle burning. Took the whole floor down. Woman died in her sleep. He waved her off. Forget it. We keep it locked now. But as she left the office, she noticed something strange. On his keychain, right next to his apartment master key, hung a smaller rusted one labeled 6B. That night, Mara couldn't shake the sound of that knock. The hollow echo replayed in her mind as she lay in bed. Outside, rain tapped against her window. At exactly midnight, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A voice message. She pressed play. 3 knocks. Then her own voice whispering, "Let me in." Mara's stomach dropped. She deleted the message and turned on every light in the apartment. Her hands trembled as she grabbed a baseball bat and crept into the hallway. The building was silent except for the hum of the old fluorescent bulbs. She stood outside 6B. The door looked newer than the others, freshly painted, no number plate. She touched the knob. Cold, too cold. Her reflection wavered in the metal like water. "Mara," a faint voice said. She stumbled back, dropping the bat. "Who's there?" No answer. The next day, she told her friend Elena, who worked with her at the diner. "You're just tired," Elena said, stirring her coffee. "You've been doing doubles all week. You're hearing things." "I'm not," Mara insisted. "Someone's in there across the hall." Elena smirked. "Then record it. If there's really something, prove it." Mara hated that idea, but she did it anyway. That night, she placed her phone against the door to 6B, recording audio while she pretended to read on her couch. Nothing happened for hours. Until 12 cows a.m. The knock came again, 3 times, then whispering, but not outside, from inside her apartment. She spun around. The lights flickered. The TV turned on by itself, static filling the room. Through the noise, a shape flickered on the screen. A figure standing in a doorway. Her doorway. The camera angle was from the hall. Someone was recording her from outside. She rushed to the peephole. Nothing. But the faint red light of a camera blinked from across the hall, pointing straight at her door. Heart pounding, Mara called the landlord again. "Mr. Crowley," she said, voice shaking. "Someone's breaking into the building. They're using 6B. Silence. Then, in a low, tired voice, "There is no 6B anymore, Miss Reeves." "I'm looking at it right now." He sighed. "You shouldn't be." "What does that mean?" But he hung up. Mara stared at the closed door across the hall. For a moment, she thought she saw movement beneath it, a shadow pacing back and forth. Then came the faint sound of her own voice again. "Let me in." And this time, the door handle turned. The doorknob rattled, then stopped. Mara froze, the bat still in her hand, breath shallow. Nothing moved. Nothing. For a moment, she wondered if she had imagined it. Then, a faint metallic click echoed through the hallway, and the door to 6B creaked open just an inch. A thin line of blackness leaked through the gap. Not just darkness, blackness, as if the room on the other side had been painted over with shadow. "Mara." Her name floated through the crack like a whisper carried by cold air. She stepped closer. "Who's there?" The voice didn't answer, but the door opened another inch, by itself. Her heart thundered. Against every instinct screaming, "Don't do it!" Mara reached out and pushed the door fully open. The air inside was frozen, like stepping into a freezer. Her breath came out in pale mist. The room was empty. No furniture, no light fixtures. Just walls the color of ash and a thick layer of dust. Except one wall. On it hung a mirror, tall, cracked, and covered with a thin veil of soot. Mara's reflection stared back at her, slightly delayed, as though the glass were thinking before it moved. She reached out and wiped a section clean. Her reflection smiled, but she didn't. She gasped, stumbling back. "What?" The reflection's lips moved. "You shouldn't have opened the door." Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Unknown number again. She answered with trembling hands. "Hello? Get out of there." It was Mr. Crowley. His voice was panicked, hoarse. "Leave that apartment now, Miss Reeves." I'm in 6B, but..." "There is no 6B, he snapped. "That door was sealed 20 years ago. The woman who died. She painted that mirror before she burned. The reflection doesn't show you. It shows what's left of her." The call cut off. Mara turned toward the mirror again, and this time her reflection wasn't alone. A woman stood behind it. Pale skin, dark hollow eyes, lips stitched shut with something black and shiny. The woman's reflection placed a hand on Mara's shoulder. But in the real world, she felt it. Cold, heavy, real. Mara screamed, swinging the bat. Glass shattered everywhere. The reflection splintered, the woman's face breaking into 1,000 fragments, each one whispering her name in a voice made of static. She ran. The door slammed shut behind her with a deafening boom. She didn't stop until she reached her apartment. She locked the door, shoved a chair under the handle, and collapsed onto the floor. Her heart wouldn't slow down. When she looked at her hands, they were streaked with soot, as if she'd been in a fire. The lights flickered again. The TV turned itself on. The static formed shapes, the mirror, the fire, the woman. And then, for just 1 second, the screen showed Mara's own apartment from the other side. Someone, or something, was filming her through the mirror's reflection. Hours later at dawn, someone knocked on her door again. This time it was Elena. "Mara, are you okay? You didn't come to work. I got worried." Mara opened the door slowly. She hadn't slept, her eyes red and hollow. "Elena, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. Try me." So Mara told her about the voice, the mirror, the fire, everything. Elena's face grew pale. "What's wrong?" Mara asked. Elena took out her phone and showed her a news article. Crescent Apartments fire. Woman found dead, identified as Mara Reeves, 27. The photo below the headline was her. Mara stared at the screen, shaking her head. "That's not possible." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Mara, that article is from last night." Mara turned toward her apartment mirror, and for the first time her reflection wasn't there. Just smoke, and a faint voice whispering, "Welcome home." Elena dropped her phone. The sound echoed through the hallway like a gunshot. Mara stared at the news article again. Her own photo, her name, her age. The details were exact. The fire, the date, even her apartment number, 6B. But she was standing right there, breathing, talking. "Elena," Mara whispered, "this isn't real. It can't be real." Elena's voice shook. "I saw the smoke, Mara. I called your number. The fire department said no one made it out. Her pulse throbbed in her ears. Then how am I here? Neither of them had an answer. That night, Mara refused to sleep. She sat on the couch, staring at the wall across the hall, at that door. Elena had gone home, promising to call the police in the morning. But deep down, Mara knew the police couldn't help her, because every time she closed her eyes, she saw the mirror again, the cracks, the whispers, and behind it, the woman with stitched lips watching her like a shadow in the glass. At 12 a.m. sharp, her phone buzzed, a video message. Her fingers trembled as she played it. It was her, in her apartment. But the camera was filming from the inside of the mirror. The reflection moved differently, a fraction behind her real actions. When she lifted her hand, the mirror version smiled, just a beat too late. And then the reflection mouthed something. Trade places. Mara dropped the phone. The TV flickered on again. The static faded into an image of her apartment door. Someone was standing outside it, recording. Then came the 3 knocks. She turned toward the real door. Knock, knock, knock. Her stomach dropped. She grabbed the bat and crept closer. Who's there? No answer. She looked through the peephole and froze. She was staring at herself. Same face, same hair, same clothes. But the version outside looked pale, burned and smiling. Her double tilted its head. Then it whispered through the door in a voice that was half static, half breath. You took my place. The lights exploded, popping one after another. Sparks fell from the ceiling. Mara stumbled back as the hallway went dark. When she looked again, the door to 6B was wide open. The mirror was glowing inside. A deep hum filled the air like electricity under her skin. She felt something pulling, not physically, but deeper, like her reflection was tugging at her soul. Mara. The stitched woman's voice was clearer now. You shouldn't have broken the mirror. The reflection stepped forward from the glass, each movement wrong, jerky, like a puppet on invisible strings. I'm not supposed to be out here, it said, voice distorted. But you let me out, and now you'll take my place. Mara turned and ran for the elevator. The buttons didn't light up. The doors wouldn't close. Behind her, footsteps echoed. Her own footsteps. She dashed down the stairwell, heart hammering. Every floor looked the same, but when she reached the ground level, she found herself back on the 6th floor again. The sign on the wall flickered. 6th floor, apartment 6B. No, she whispered. She turned the corner and saw Elena standing outside her door. Elena! Her friend turned slowly. Her face was blank, her eyes empty. Mara, she said softly, I brought you home. Elena stepped aside. The door to 6B was open, glowing with that same dark light, and in the center of the room stood the mirror, now completely restored, unbroken, gleaming. Mara shook her head. No, I'm not going in there. Elena smiled, voice low and distant. You already did. Mara turned toward the hallway mirror and realized she wasn't reflected anymore. The space where her image should be was empty. The reflection world had no walls, no sound. Just her, standing in endless darkness, watching Elena and her burned twin walk out of the apartment together. She screamed, pounding against the inside of the glass, but her voice made no sound. Then, faintly, she saw words appear on the mirror's surface, written in fog. You broke the seal. Now the mirror needs a keeper. Darkness swallowed everything. Inside the mirror, Mara pounded against the glass, her fists leaving pale smudges. Outside, the world moved like a memory replaying without her. She screamed Elena's name, but her voice didn't travel. Only the faint echo of her heartbeat filled the void, slow, fading. She tried again, slamming her palms against the cold surface. This time, something answered. From the black behind her, a soft whisper. "You took what was mine." Mara spun around. The woman with the stitched lips stood there closer than ever. The stitches were gone now, replaced by a cruel smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Who are you?" Mara shouted. The woman tilted her head. "Who were you?" Her fingers trailed along the glass surface, and every touch sent ripples through it like water. "You let me out. You broke the seal. Now you'll learn what I learned." Outside, Elena stood before the mirror in Mara's apartment. Her face was pale, eyes wide. The mirror shimmered, and inside it, she saw Mara screaming silently. Elena whispered, "Mara?" The reflection mouthed something she couldn't hear. Behind her, the door creaked open. Mr. Crowley entered, flashlight trembling in his hand. "Elena," he said, "step away from the mirror." She turned. "What's happening? Where's Mara?" He swallowed hard. "She's inside. That's where the fire started years ago. The artist, the woman who painted the first mirror. She made a portal between reflection and reality. But when it cracked, it trapped her. The mirror always needs balance. One soul in, one soul out." Elena shook her head. "Then we can get her back. Crowley cut her off. "You can't. Once the trade is made, it's sealed." He glanced at the glass. "It's already started." Inside, the stitched woman reached toward Mara's face. "Your body's mine now," she whispered. "But don't worry. I'll take good care of it." Mara backed away. "No, you can't just—" The woman pressed her hand against the glass, and on the other side, Elena watched in horror as the same burned handprint appeared on her side. "Mara!" Elena shouted. "Fight her!" The glass began to bleed. Mara screamed as her reflection began to dissolve, her body flickering between solid and smoke. She looked up at Elena through the thinning barrier, tears streaming down her face. "Elena, break it." "What? Break the mirror!" Crowley shouted. "No! If you break it while she's inside, you'll trap her forever!" Mara's voice cracked. "Please, don't let her out!" The stitched woman grinned, her face stretching unnaturally wide. "Too late!" The lights exploded again. The building groaned as though alive. Mara's reflection, the stitched woman, stepped out of the mirror, gasping like she'd been reborn. Her burns faded as she inhaled. Elena stumbled back, horrified. "Mara?" The woman smiled. "Almost." Then she lunged. Elena swung the flashlight, shattering part of the glass. Sparks of white light burst through the cracks, and the woman screamed, clutching her head. "Keep breaking it!" Crowley yelled. Elena struck again and again, shards flying across the room. Inside the mirror, Mara felt everything shake. The walls of darkness cracked open, light spilling through. She ran toward it. The stitched woman grabbed Elena by the throat. "You can't take her back!" Elena choked, gasping. But with one final swing, she smashed the last piece of glass. The mirror exploded into 1,000 shards. Silence. Dust, smoke, light. When it cleared, the apartment was empty. The mirror was gone. Crowley stepped forward cautiously. "Elena?" No answer. Then from the corner of the room, someone coughed. Mara sat up slowly, covered in dust and blood. I'm here." Crowley exhaled. "Thank God." He helped her up. "It's over now." But as they turned to leave, a faint sound echoed behind them. A whisper. Crowley turned back. One shard of glass lay on the floor, glowing faintly. In it, Elena's face stared back, eyes wide, lips moving silently. Mara froze. "No!" Crowley bent down. The reflection smiled. "One soul in, one soul out." The shard pulsed once, then went dark. Epilogue. A month later, the Crescent Apartments were condemned. The fire had spread again, destroying the 6th floor completely. No one ever found Elena's body. But sometimes, when the moonlight hit the broken windows just right, the building's glass shimmered. And if you looked closely, You could see two women standing inside, staring back. One calm, one screaming. The end.